Heidi ho neighbors, good morning, good coffee. Woo. I'm out here in our sunroom and I'm looking into the TARDIS and I can see first stage of that Saturn V, that stark black and white just kind of staring at me going. So after that dumpster fire of a model building session yesterday, I hope to go out and start making some corrections. The how is it there's sirens every morning? Yesterday I didn't even realize while I was talking there was a siren. We don't actually have that many sirens around here usually. I live on a cul-de-sac in a quiet little neighborhood in Jacksonville, but oh well. Anyway, my wife bought a new kind of coffee. I think it's Cormorant breakfast blend. Pretty good, pretty good. I just drink it black, straight up, first hit of the day. Get that caffeine going. So I had a nice chat yesterday, a Zoom session with John Kitt, and we talked about all kinds of stuff. What just models was sort of a general gab session anyway. But one of the things I was mentioning to him was that I grew up in NASCAR country, so of course I saw my share on television NASCAR races, but I didn't really follow Formula One or any of that other stuff. I mean, I played with slot cars as a kid and remote control cars, but as you guys know, airplanes and tanks were more my thing. And since I started doing this channel and people started sending me car kits, and Mark Tyler sent me those immense miniature figures and everything, I learned that it's sort of I guess you could call it a formula takes place. Normally, you build things you're interested in. You know, kids love the monster figures, so they would make those, and they loved you know, plane. Like me, I love planes, so I build airplanes. Kids love cars, so on and so forth. But when people when you come across, because I'll build models of anything, even things that at first may not even really interest me, or at least not that much, but I think all boys have some sort of latent interest in anything mechanical. So it's not that I wasn't interested in cars. It was just I could buy a car or I could buy an airplane. Well, I'd rather have the airplane. But the more I start building these cars and trucks and start building the figures, and typical model builder, you kind of want to know something about what you're building. And so when I did the figurine build on Tazio Nuvolari, I went to the wiki page, started reading about him, and I had the other figures. So, well, you know, let me read about Hunt and about Gurney and all these other guys. And the more you read about them, it's kind of like it sort of stimulates an interest. In other words, once you start building something that would not have normally been something that you might have been that interested in, but once you start building it, you start to develop an interest. Call it a curiosity, and a curiosity can lead to an interest, and it helps to broaden the horizons a little bit. Well, let me give you an example. Whenever you see someone do a build video and you go, oh great, now I've got to, or they talk about something, oh, great, now I've got to have one of those. And so what I'm saying is a pendulum that can swing both ways. You can build something because you have an interest in it, or you can develop an interest in something because you start building it. And because John has an encyclopedic knowledge on slot cars and racing and everything, because he's a huge racing guy. And it's one of those things that, you know, it's nice to hang around people that are interested in the same things you're in, that so you guys could talk about stuff you already know about, but it's just as interesting to hang around and chat with people who are interested in other things because you learn about them, and they sort of have a way of becoming interesting. My interest in rockets goes back to being a kid, because I'm in Florida, born and, you know, raised in the 60s. I mean, the height of the space race. I was what you might have called the target demographic for the space race. And I was 8 years old when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon. And of course, I wanted nothing more than to be an astronaut. And the little bit of exposure I had to the space program and everything in person only made it worse. When I was in high school, um, they were bringing the NASA would have these they call them symposiums, and they would usually send an astronaut. Well, I had never actually met an astronaut in person before. His name was Bruce McCandless, and a few of you probably already know who he is, but I'll get to that in a second. So he had not gone into space yet when I met him in 1977, 78. Everybody was working on the shuttle. It hadn't flown yet. We hadn't had a manned space mission for a few years because I think Apollo-Soyuz test mission was the last one. And, well, I guess it was Skylab. Yeah. Anyway, so, wait a minute. I'm getting my, I think ASTP was the last Apollo launch. Anyway. So of course they brought out all their models and their gadgets to show us, and of course just being around and talking to a real astronaut and everything else just buried the desire to be an astronaut or go into space into my soul. Not like it wasn't already there, but it just, you know. And then a lot of the astronauts were car guys too. You gotta remember most of these guys were engineers, and they would, you know, ride their cars out, you can do all kinds of things to it. It was just they're an interesting bunch of guys. And when you're around those kind of people, it's highly infectious. I mean, they're jet pilots, they're astronauts, they're you know, they have hot rods, and they spend their time going around talking to kids like us about going into space. And of course, I'd have turned my back on a candy store to hang around at the model shop. So, of course, I was exactly the kind of kid that they were luring in to be a future engineer. Unfortunately, I have a math deficit. I suck at math. So, of course, I was building models of spacecraft for a while. And of course, I always did. And it never went away. My interest in building that stuff, my interest in building model rockets, including ones that flew like Estes. And some people have asked to do Estes, and I haven't really been able to find enough about the company to do a video. But some folks have sent me some information on some other companies, so hopefully they don't call me back to work soon. I'll get some more history videos out here. I am supposed to speak to Nick Argento this week. I hope we get a chance to chat. And get the Glencoe video up. But that brings me to the next. I was going to say Bruce McCandless, years later. I saw he was finally going to get his ride. Now, you guys may know what the MMU is, the Man Maneuvering Unit. You know, the Johnny Quest space backpack that if you've seen the movie Gravity, that's what George Clooney's flying as an MMU, although it does not move like it moved in that show. In that movie. But Bruce went up in the space shuttle, and he did the first untethered spacewalk. He got in the MMU, and he literally flew around completely untethered to the shuttle, which is not a small thing. And essentially, with a man in a spacesuit in an MMU, what you have is a teeny tiny one-man spaceship. And I thought that I always wanted to model one, and of course, that the kit was made for a brief while. Why I didn't buy one, I don't know. I think at that point, given my situation, I wasn't building models, you know, trying to find work and everything, and I need to get one of those. As I recall, they usually tend to be ridiculously overpriced. I could be wrong about that. I've seen them a couple times on eBay, but it's like, nah, just too many other things. But given that I have actually met the guy who flew the thing for the first time, you would think I would have, you know, one of those up already. And the other thing I wanted was the old, was it Revell Man in Space? I have the Gemini astronaut, the Al White, not Al White, Ed White, first American to do a spacewalk. I have his, the one of him. where he's tethered to the Jimny. I don't have the little backpack unit, which was by the predecessor to the MMU that Gene Cernan was supposed to use, but he wasn't able to get into it, and there's a whole story behind that. Apparently, when he did his, they didn't know anything about spacewalks back then. I mean, Ed had just floated around for 20 minutes, but when Gene tried to actually go out and do work, they didn't have any handholds or proper handholds or anything for him. He wound up exhausting himself and fogging up his visor, which is extremely dangerous, by the way, for an astronaut. So he had to get back into, he barely got back in the capsule. We're lucky to recover him. And so they never had to fly that thing. That's too bad. That would have been awesome. In fact, you can go out on YouTube and see the video. He's out there struggling because he's got nothing to hold on to. And so people forget when you're in those suits, they're inflated, so you're fighting the suit. But apparently the kit model, that thing's pretty rare. And when you find a real one, it's really expensive. And unfortunately, people, they'll counterfeit them, you know. But if they, well, I don't know if they did any, I think they did some repops later on. And we'll find an old box of instruction sheets and put a new kit in there and try to sell off some old one. It's sad, but people will counterfeit anything people will make, including kit models. Well, guys, I want to thank you for tuning in today. You have a great day. I have to go make up for yesterday's sins and make a beautiful Saturn V. It's going to take longer to do that than I thought. It's deceptively simple looking, you know. Oh, it's just black and white, and you start taping it off and everything, trying to mark everything and not make a mess out of it. And of course, that decal sheet I got from Cult TV Man is far more detailed than the original, so it's going to be a while, but I'm looking forward to it. And of course, I'll set some pictures up when I'm done. Hopefully today or tomorrow, maybe the next day. Maybe next week, maybe next year. We don't run on a schedule here. Y'all take care and model on.